I used to think barbecues were simple. Flip some burgers, crack a few beers, keep the dog from stealing food, and boom, you've got yourself a good Saturday. But that afternoon, as I stood by the grill in our backyard, spatula in hand and apron covered in meat juice, I learned something new. Sometimes the person you need to watch out for isn't the guy holding the tongs. It's the one holding the wine glass and a microphone made of ego. That person, in my case, was my wife Sarah. She floated around the backyard like she owned it, laughing loud, holding court with her friends, tossing out one-liners like she was hosting her own roast special. "Michael tried fixing the garbage disposal last week," she called out. "Let's just say, now it makes even more garbage." Laughter. I smiled politely, flipped a burger. "Oh, and don't ask him to use a screwdriver unless you want to see a man cry. I swear, I've seen raccoons more handy." More laughter. Even from people who were chewing. Someone choked on a chip. Okay. Deep breath. Not the time to snap. I just smiled again and kept grilling. It wasn't the first time she made me the punchline in front of a crowd. And God knows it wouldn't be the last. But I wasn't bitter. Not yet. Not until she went for round 3. "And don't get me started on his financial sense," she said, sipping from her glass. "The man once invested in an app that told you when to water fake plants. Fake plants." Everyone cracked up. One of her friends, Lindsay, laughed so hard she snorted. She actually snorted. What a sound. Now here's the thing, I can take a joke. I really can. I've had decades of practice. But jokes stop being jokes when they're one-sided. When you're the only one bleeding from the laughs. So when it was my turn, just for once, I tossed back a little line of my own. Not a low blow, just a gentle jab. The kind husbands and wives exchange over dinner. As I passed out hot dogs, I said with a smile, "Hey, at least I didn't burn money, like your mom does every time she walks into a mall." It was light. A chuckle. Barely louder than the sizzle from the grill. But Sarah turned. And everything changed. She walked right up to me, wine glass in one hand, anger in the other. No warning. No smirk. No playful glare. Just smack. Her palm landed square across my cheek, loud and sharp enough to freeze every conversation mid-word. "Don't talk about my mother like that," she hissed, her eyes cold. The laughter died. Someone dropped a paper plate. The dog started barking. I stood there holding a hot dog bun, frozen like a mannequin in a hardware store. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I didn't even flinch. I just looked at her, not angry, not sad, just surprised. Because she had told that same crowd, just 10 minutes earlier, that I cried fixing a sink. But when I made a soft joke about her shopaholic mother, I get slapped like I threw hands. So I nodded once, just once. Then I turned, walked into the house, and closed the door behind me. In the kitchen, I opened the freezer and pressed a bag of frozen peas to my face. Not for the pain, but because it helped cool the thoughts boiling in my head. That slap didn't come out of nowhere, and neither did that look in her eyes. I'd been brushing things off for weeks, maybe months. The quiet phone calls, the perfume she never wore for me, the neighbor, Lucas, suddenly showing up more than the mailman. I didn't want to believe it before, but after that slap, I finally stopped lying to myself. I stayed in the kitchen longer than I needed to, long enough for the freezer door to beep twice and the ice to melt into my shirt collar. I didn't care. I just stood there, staring at the tiles, letting the buzz of the party drift in through the windows like static. I wasn't angry, not really. I was processing. You'd think getting slapped in front of friends and neighbors would push a guy to rage. But all I felt was that creeping, humming sensation you get when something's been wrong for a while, and you finally stop pretending it's not. That was when I saw him through the window. Lucas. He was by the fence, half hidden behind the trees near the side yard, talking to Sarah. Too close. Way too close. She had her back to the house, one hand on his arm, like they were discussing something very serious. His head was tilted, listening. He touched her elbow. She laughed softly. That specific laugh, the one I hadn't heard in weeks. She used to laugh like that with me. And now? She looked alive. I leaned forward, squinting through the glass, but just then, someone walked past the window and blocked my view. By the time they were gone, Sarah was already heading back toward the patio, Lucas trailing behind like nothing had happened. I let the curtain fall, slowly. What the hell was that? Was I imagining it? Maybe. Or maybe not. Lucas was a nice guy, friendly, polished. The kind of guy who always volunteered to help but never broke a sweat. Perfect smile, perfect lawn, perfect abs, judging by the way he insisted on mowing shirtless. And lately, he'd been around a lot. Lucas is just helping with the shelves, Sarah had said last month. Lucas fixed the door handle. You've been too busy. Lucas offered to help set up the patio lights. Isn't that sweet? Yeah. So sweet it rotted my damn teeth. But I'd ignored it. I was busy with work, long hours, back-to-back deadlines. Sarah said she was bored, lonely, needed attention. I tried to be more present, plan dates, cook dinners. Hell, I even downloaded a couples meditation app she insisted would heal our dynamic. And then she slaps me over a dumb one-liner about her mom? No. Something wasn't adding up. I walked back outside with the peas still pressed to my cheek. Everyone tried to act normal, bless their awkward souls. Lindsay gave me that fake sympathetic smile like, OMG, so random, couples fight. I smiled back. But inside, my gears were grinding. Sarah acted like nothing happened. She was now sitting on a deck chair with a drink in hand, laughing with Lucas. Again. She didn't even flinch when I walked past them. How's your face? Lucas asked, chuckling like it was a punchline, not an actual punch. Fine, I said. Peas helped, still frozen, just like your sense of boundaries. He blinked. Sarah laughed, a little too loud. Oh my God, Michael, relax. You're being dramatic. Am I? I didn't wait for a response. I grabbed a beer from the cooler and sat at the edge of the yard, away from the crowd, watching, thinking. The rest of the barbecue felt like watching a movie I'd already seen, but with different actors pretending everything was fine. The burgers were overcooked, the kids fought over popsicles, someone spilled a drink on our new rug, and Sarah kept laughing. With him. Always with him. By the time the last guest left and I was picking up plastic cups off the lawn, Sarah was inside changing into what she called her after-party pajamas. Cute, cozy, reserved for nights when she felt like pretending everything was perfect. She walked into the kitchen as I wiped down the counter. That wasn't funny, she said. No greeting, no apology. I didn't look up. Yeah, I said. Neither was the sink story, or the one about the fake plant app. She rolled her eyes. You overreacted. I got slapped. You insulted my mother. You humiliated me 3 times. I made one joke, and you went full Real Housewives on me. Silence. Then she did that thing where she crossed her arms like she was building a wall out of herself. Maybe you should grow thicker skin. Maybe you should grow a conscience. She stared at me. I stared back. Then she walked off. No apology, no recognition, just the soft pad of her feet on the stairs. That night, I couldn't sleep. She was curled up next to me like nothing happened, scrolling through her phone, AirPods in, chuckling softly. I stared at the ceiling and thought about Lucas. Lucas the helpful. Lucas the shirtless. Lucas the smirker. I decided I wasn't going to accuse anyone, not yet. Instead, I'd do something I should have done months ago. Watch. So the next morning, I told Sarah I had a double shift at work. I packed my bag and drove off. But I didn't go to the office. I circled the block, parked down the street, waited. It took 11 minutes. Lucas's truck rolled up like it was just another Tuesday. He parked, not out front like usual, but down the block. Sneaky little maneuver, buddy. Then he walked casually to our house, holding nothing. No tools, no supplies, just his phone. He rang the bell. Sarah opened it wearing that same cozy robe she claimed was for sleeping only. They didn't kiss, they didn't hug, but the way she stepped aside to let him in, it was too natural. I took photos, just in case. I wasn't even sure what I'd do with them. I just needed something real, something more than suspicion. I drove off. But not home, not to work. I needed air, space, clarity. That night, I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I started looking for the pattern. I checked our shared calendar. Guess what? Every single time I had an evening meeting, a late shift, or a business trip, Lucas had either stopped by or helped with something at the house, fixing lights, hanging shelves, advising on landscaping, helping with interior flow. Interior flow, my ass. Let's just say she'd been texting Lucas more often than she texted me, even during dinners, even during movies we watched together. She'd smile at her phone and say it was a work thing. Sure it was. But the final crack, the one that split my denial wide open, came 2 days later. I got home early, but told her that he was stuck in traffic. I parked a few blocks away, walked up quietly, and from the front porch, I heard her voice through the kitchen window. "You know what the worst part is?" she said, laughing. "He actually thinks I slapped him because of the joke." Laughter. Lucas's voice. "You're a savage." "He's so passive. He always folds. I needed to shift the energy." "You shifted it all right." They laughed again. I backed away from the window like it was on fire. It wasn't just the affair. It wasn't just the slap. It was that she thought I was so harmless, so weak, that I wouldn't do anything. That I wouldn't notice. And that's when something inside me clicked. She wanted me quiet. She wanted me confused. She wanted me to keep playing the nice guy while she rewrote the rules. Fine. Let her think that. Let her laugh. Because the punchline was coming. And this time, it would be mine. The night I heard them laughing through the kitchen window, my wife and the man who's apparently now our unofficial handyman, something inside me just broke. But not in the way you'd think. I didn't punch walls, didn't scream into the void, didn't throw her clothes out the window like some guy in a country song. No. I got smart. I started where any curious man would. Her phone. One morning she was in the shower. I was supposed to be rushing off to work. Instead, I stood by the bedroom dresser pretending to look for socks. I heard the water running, and for the first time in weeks, she'd left her phone charging on the nightstand. I moved quickly. I didn't have time to scroll through conversations. That'd be too risky, so I did the one thing I knew she'd never notice. I synced her phone to my laptop using Apple's built-in backup function. She'd logged into our family cloud ages ago and clearly forgotten. All I had to do was plug it in, hit a few buttons, and boom, full backup in under 3 minutes. I left the phone exactly where it was, screen untouched. She never suspected a thing. That night, after she went to bed, I sat in the living room with my laptop like I was watching a late-night movie. What I saw? Not a movie. More like a slow-motion car crash, with my name on the license plate. Texts between her and Lucas, going back months. "Thanks for today. You always know how to loosen me up. He'll be out late tonight. You should come by. God, I wish I was with you instead." Photos, too. Some tame, some not. One of them, her, in that robe she claimed was just for relaxing. Posing, smiling, holding a glass of wine. I recognized the damn wine glass. We got it on our anniversary. I didn't stop there. With the cloud access, I got into her iMessages, location history, even shared calendar notes she thought were private. Turns out, all those yoga classes, book club meetups, and spa days lined up perfectly with the times Lucas's truck had been seen parked a few blocks away, or when I was working late. And to top it off, voice memos. They'd sent each other little recordings like horny high schoolers. In one of them, she whispered, "He still thinks we're just friends. Poor thing. He's so eager to please. It's almost cute." Lucas replied, "If he ever finds out, we'll say it was emotional support or some spiritual crap. He's gullible enough." That's when my stomach turned. I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. The kind of clarity people talk about right before they do something irreversible. I began collecting, quietly, methodically. I created a folder on a private drive, labeled it simply Contingency. Screenshots, audio files, date-stamped calendar overlaps. I even added photos from the barbecue, them standing too close, the matching smiles, the way she looked at him like I wasn't even on the same planet. It wasn't just cheating, it was mockery. Casual, habitual, daily mockery. And now, I had a full timeline of it. Labeled, categorized, stored in 3 different places, offline and cloud, encrypted, safe. Still, I didn't confront her, because confrontation gets you drama, evidence gets you leverage. So I smiled more, held her hand at dinner, let her think I was still the fool, still stunned from the slap, still licking my wounds. She didn't realize I was already talking to a lawyer, didn't notice I'd begun separating our finances, moving pieces quietly, like a man preparing for a quiet departure. And when she told me she was going away for the weekend, girls' trip, deep healing, chakra reset, I simply said, take all the time you need. Because I wasn't stopping her. I was giving her more rope. She just didn't know it was already tied. The Friday she left, it was sunny. Ironic, really. Sarah stood at the door with her weekend bag, sunglasses on, pretending she wasn't practically vibrating with excitement. She gave me a hug that felt rehearsed, sterile, the kind of hug you give your dentist after a decent cleaning. Love you, she said, like punctuation. Love you too, I replied. Only one of us meant it. She got into her car, waved once, and drove off to her girls' trip. Except I knew exactly where she was going. And I knew she wasn't alone. I gave it 3 hours, long enough for her to get comfortable, long enough for Lucas to show up at the little rental cabin she'd booked on her friend's name, long enough for them to start pretending they were in some kind of secret fairy tale, where real life and I didn't exist. Then I pressed send. I sent the first email to our closest friends and family, just a short, polite message. Hey everyone, I know we all care about Sarah. That's why I think it's only fair you see what she's been up to while telling everyone we're working through things. Attached are a few pictures and excerpts from messages between her and our neighbor Lucas. I've removed anything too graphic. I just thought you should hear it from me before the rumors start flying. Michael. Then I sent another email to her boss. Sarah worked in HR. Her company prided itself on integrity, professionalism in and out of the workplace, and, hilariously, community involvement. Lucas had recently done some contracting work for her department. The photos of them kissing in the cabin kitchen, time-stamped of course, probably wouldn't pair well with his signed invoice and her approval signature. Oops, I sent the 3rd email to Lucas himself. No words, just one attachment. A PDF file named Enjoy. Inside, every screenshot, every calendar matchup, every voice memo transcript, each one with the exact date and time I was supposedly at work, and he was just helping Sarah fix the outdoor lights. And then I waited. It took 45 minutes. My phone rang. I didn't answer. 10 texts from Sarah. 4 from Lucas. 1 from an unknown number. Probably a new phone she bought in panic mode. Then silence. Blissful, wide-eyed silence. Until finally, at 11:13 p.m., the final message from Sarah popped up. What the hell did you do? I stared at the screen for a moment, then typed back, I just let the truth stretch its legs. When she got home Sunday night, the house was clean. Her key still worked. I wasn't dramatic like that. I was sitting in the living room sipping tea. She opened the door slowly, like she thought it might explode. Michael, she said out of breath. What are you doing? Sitting, waiting, thinking. You humiliated me. No, I said calmly. You did that. I just CC'd the audience. She looked at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. And maybe she didn't. Because the man she used to mock, slap, lie to, and gaslight, he was gone. The man in front of her now? He had evidence, a lawyer, and nothing left to lose. Sarah always thought she was 10 steps ahead, always the smartest in the room, always the one pulling the strings. So watching her try to collect herself in our living room, hair still damp from the panic shower, sunglasses on indoors like that would somehow shield her from reality, was almost surreal. She paced like she was trying to outrun the consequences. "You ruined everything," she snapped, voice trembling. "You couldn't just talk to me? You had to go nuclear?" I sipped my tea and looked at her like she was a confused child. "I tried talking," I said. "You slapped me, remember?" She went silent, the way she always did when there was no clever comeback. "You don't get to act like the victim now, Sarah. You wrote this script, I just hit print." The fallout started fast. By Monday morning, she was called into a compliance review at work. Apparently, HR reps aren't supposed to approve invoices from men they're secretly kissing in rental cabins. Who knew? Lucas lost his contracting gig too. He tried to spin it, said I was slandering him. Didn't matter. The pictures didn't lie. One of our mutual friends, Jen, texted me privately. "I'm so sorry. We all thought something was off. We just didn't want to believe it. You didn't deserve this." I didn't reply. I didn't need sympathy. I just needed space. I filed for divorce that same week. Clean, direct, no theatrics. My lawyer included a breakdown of everything: adultery clause, asset division, evidence package. It was airtight. Sarah tried to stall, then begged, then yelled, then tried crying. "I made a mistake," she sobbed, crouched on the kitchen floor like she was starring in her own tragedy. "Please, Michael, don't throw everything away." I looked down at her, and for a moment, I remembered who she used to be. The woman I married. The woman I thought I knew. I said softly, "You burned it. I'm just walking out of the ashes." Word spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. The same people who laughed at her jokes at the barbecue now crossed the street to avoid her. Lucas stopped mowing shirtless, then stopped showing up altogether. I heard through the grapevine he moved back in with his brother out of state. Good riddance. As for Sarah, she stayed in the house for a while. I let her, temporarily, legally. But it wasn't home anymore, not for either of us. She tried to save face, posting yoga quotes on Instagram, sharing old selfies like nothing had happened. But behind the filter, she was cracking, and I was healing. Funny thing is, I never felt more alive than the day the divorce finalized. Not because I was single again, not because I won, but because I finally stopped playing the role she wrote for me. The quiet husband, the background character. Now, I was the author of my own ending. And trust me, this time, no one's slapping me off stage.